Beginning of the broadcast, last week's prospective plantings report from the USDA is forecasting Nebraska farmers to plant slightly more than 19.8 million acres of crops this planting season. And one way that's going to happen is by making sure your planter is in top condition. Market Journal's Bill Dodd talked with Dave Panko to understand why planter maintenance is one of the first steps for a successful growing season.
Having your planter in top condition is important for many producers. This is particularly true for producers utilizing reduced and no-till operations. In short, a well-maintained planter will give seeds their best chance to flourish throughout the growing season. A majority of the physical responsibilities for pushing soil, placing seed, and getting things off on the right foot rests squarely on the shoulders of the planter. Making sure this piece of equipment is in top working order will give you the best possible start for achieving maximum yield performance.
Really, for any row crop farmer, in my opinion, the planter is their most valuable piece of equipment. The biggest impact on any crop is largely determined by the planter and the performance of that planter. We need to have seeds placed accurately and provide an even emergence of that crop to gain the highest yield. Keeping proper maintenance on your planter is probably very, very undervalued. In my opinion, growers need to take the time to understand what proper maintenance is on each component of their planter. Out in front of the row unit itself, you're going to have your row cleaner that's going to clear out any residue, root ball that you have in the way or dirt to provide a clean surface for the planter row unit behind it. So then behind that you have a true V disc that's going to form a furrow for that seed to drop in. And the depth of that true V disc is going to be determined by a gauge wheel that is right next to those discs. And up above, at the same time when this furrow is forming, you're going to have a meter that is singulating and dropping the seed as accurate as possible. And that seed is falling down through a seed tube and placed in the bottom of the seed trench. And behind that, you can be, as some guys, if they choose to do so, would drop fertilizer in the seed trench. And then behind that, you would have some sort of closing wheel or closing system that's going to close that seed trench up.
With so much happening in one fell swoop, it's easy to understand why proper maintenance is so crucial to your operation. One of the first things your planter does is clear debris and move soil with the row cleaners. This will be a good place to start, as you may run into problems including yield loss without proper maintenance of this component.
Most likely you're going to either clean too much or not enough residue or dirt ahead of your row unit, which is going to cause uneven emergence or possibly leave seeds on top of the ground, and you would cause basically a loss in yield potential. For most row cleaners, you're going to have a linkage or an arm for a floating row cleaner, that is, and you need to check that linkage as well as the bearings that on the wheels themselves. Those need to be serviced every year. And if you do have a fixed row cleaner, you also want to check those bearings on those wheels as well and make sure that they are properly maintained.
Next on the agenda will be to check your V-disc or opener. This component is responsible for opening a consistent furrow and placing seed at a consistent depth. Your biggest concern with this particular part will be the diameter of the disc and the functionality of the gauge wheels.
So with any true V-disc or any opener, the first place we start is a diameter of the disc. The OEM manufacturers are going to have specs of when those need to be replaced. For a John Deere planter, brand new, those discs are 15 inches, and at a 14.5 inches or less, those discs need to be replaced. For a Case IH planter, brand new, those are 14 inches, and at 13.5 inches, those discs need to be replaced. But any of those specs you can find from an OEM dealer, especially properly shimming those discs. So that's the gauge wheels are lined up to the true V disc, and those need to be properly shimmed so that they press against the true V and provide a good depth gauge with that.
There are many options available to producers when it comes to applying downforce or down pressure during the planting process. Too much or too little, and you could wind up costing yourself over the long haul. However, there are some extra measures you can take to ensure that doesn't become an issue.
To set downforce correctly, we need to have clarity on what the row unit is doing itself. And there's sensors we can mount on the row unit that will tell you if there is a smooth ride and if that row unit is staying on the ground at all times. Those sensors can be placed and you can have those readings in the monitor. Secondly, we can put a weight pin on the row that will tell us the amount of weight we're pushing down on the row. Typically, when a grower is planting, if he is applying more than 450 pounds of pressure on that row, you're going to be causing compaction. So between the sensor and the weigh pin, we can determine if we're providing enough pressure or too little pressure when we're planting.
Farm machinery is an investment. As such, you'll want to achieve the best return possible on that investment. Failing to get a proper start in the best possible seed bed, crops will ultimately be challenged from the onset to grow to their full potential. With proper maintenance and some fine-tuning, your planter should get your growing season started on the right foot. Reporting for Market Journal, I'm Bill Dodd.